Daf Yomi, Tractate Menachot, page 26b. Starting on the last line of 26a, Tashima. So at the very bottom of 26a, Tashima, come in here, another proof. Kamatz b'mino v'nasim b'smolo, yachshil b'mino b'smolo. Turning to 26b now on the top. V'chishev aleha, ben chutz l'mkomo, ben chutz l'zmano, pasul, v'ein boi kois. Okay. The Gemara suggests another proof coming here. If the priest removed the handful with his right hand and put it in his left hand, he shall return it to his right hand. If the handful was in his left hand, top of 26b, and he intended to partake of the meal offering in an improper manner, whether outside its designated area or beyond its designated time, the offering is not valid, but there is no liability to receive karet if one partakes of it. Lo yechishiv aleh chutz m'koimoi pasul v'mikoreis chutz lizmanoi pigul v'chayovin olav koreis divrei Rabbi also Rabbi Shimon. The Gemara presents an alternative version of this Braita. If while the handful was in his right hand, he intended to partake of the meal offering outside its designated area, the offering is not valid, but there is no liability to receive karet if one partakes of it. If he intended to partake of it beyond its designated time, then the offering is pigul, and one who partakes of it is liable to receive karet. This is the statement of Rabbi Yehoshua and Rabbi Shimon. V'chachamim oimrim kevon sh'nasan esmoil v'salto matnosui ma'itaimu mishum deboi kedusha b'chli v'kevon sh'nasan esmoil nasech adam shenishbach mitzavo behema al haritzpo yasafo shepasul. And the rabbis say, once he put the handful in his left hand, the placing of it in his left hand renders it unfit, and it cannot be rendered fit by returning it to his right hand. What is the reason? It is because it requires sanctification to serve his vessel, and once he put it in his left hand, it is considered like blood that spilled from an animal's neck onto the floor before being collected in a service vessel, and one then gathered it, which is unfit, and cannot be rendered fit by then being placed in a service vessel. The Gemara notes, by inference, one can conclude that Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Shimon do not require sanctification of the handful by placing it in a service vessel. Accordingly, this serves as a conclusive refutation of the opinion of Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, who stated that even Rabbi Shimon requires sanctification in a service vessel. The Gemara affirms this is a conclusive refutation of his opinion. The Braita teaches that according to Rabbi Shimon, if the priest transferred to the handful to his left hand, he should return the handful to his right hand. The Gemara comments, this supports the statements of Rabbi Yehuda, son of Rabbi Chia, as he said that according to the opinion of Rabbi Shimon, the rites of the meal offering must be performed with the priest's right hand. The Gemara asks, shall we say that this Braita is a conclusive refutation of the opinion of Yanai, as it teaches that the handful must be transferred back to his right hand, whereas he states that once the handful has been removed from a service vessel, it may be sacrificed in any manner. Amar lach Rav Yanai, anadamri katana dehektir, vilav l'stadim katani. The Gemara answers, Rav Yanai could say to you, I stated my ruling in accordance with the opinion of the Tana, who taught that the burning of the fat in the limbs and the sacrifice of the meal offering can all take place with either the right hand or left hand. And I hold that he does not teach it disjunctively as it was explained in order to reconcile the Braita with the statement of Rabbi Yehuda, son of Rabbi Chia. Rather, it is to be understood according to its straightforward meaning. Hiktirkum pamayim keshero. Amar Yehoshua ben Levi pamayim. V'lo pamei pamayim. Rabbi Yochanan amar pamayim. Afilu pamei pamayim. The Mishnah teaches that if the priest burned the handful of a meal offering twice, meaning in 2 increments, it is fit. The Gemara comments, Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi says, the handful is fit if it is burned twice, where half of the handful is burned each time, but not if it is burned several times in smaller increments. Rabbi Yochanan says, if it is fit, it is burned twice, and if it is fit, even if it is burned several times. My b'naihu, Amar b'zera yesh koimet pochais mishnei zeisim, v'yesh aktara pechus u'nikazai b'naihu. The Gemara asks, what is the basis for the dispute between the 2 opinions? Rabbi Zera said, the dispute between the 2 is with regard to whether there is significance to a handful that is less than the size of 2 olives, and whether there is significance to the burning of less than an olive bulk on the altar. Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi Saval, Ein komet bachos mishnei zeisim ben aktora bachos b'gazayis. Rabbi Yochanan Savar, yesh komet bachos mishnei zeisim yesh aktora bachos b'gazayis. Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi holds that there is no significance to a handful that is less than the size of 2 olives, and there is no significance to the burning of less than an olive bulk on the altar. Therefore, the Mishnah's statement that the handful may be burned in 2 increments is meant literally, and the handful may be divided into only 2 equal portions, where each one contains exactly 1 olive bulk. It may not be divided further, since doing so would result in the burning of less than an olive bulk on the altar. And Rabbi Yochanan holds that there is significance to a handful that is less than the size of 2 olives, and there is significance to the burning of less than an olive bulk on the altar. Therefore, if the handful was divided into several small portions, and each portion was burned separately, it is fit. Itmar komets meimus lemat shiraim bechila rechin omer mi shemashla bo esau Rabbi Yochanan mishetatiz bo esau berubo. It was stated, from when precisely does the sacrifice of the handful render permitted the remainder of the meal offering for consumption by the priest? Rabbi Chanina says, from when the fire takes hold of it, meaning when it ignites. Rabbi Yochanan says, from when the fire consumes the most of the handful. Amar lei, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Bar Yitzchak, Asvara, Lach, Tamad Rabbi Yochanan, Amar Kravi, Hine ala Kito, Oret Kito, Kivshon, Ein Kivshon Male Kito, Ad Shitatzi, Saru Biruboi. Rabbi Yehuda said to Rabbi Bar Yitzchak, I will explain to you the reasoning of Rabbi Yochanan. The verse states, and behold, the smoke of the land went up as smoke of a furnace, Genesis 19:28. And a furnace does not release smoke until the fire takes hold of the majority of the fuel. Rabbi Yochanan derived from this verse that the majority of the handful must be consumed by the fire, since the priests are instructed to make the handful smoke, as it is written, and the priest shall make the memorial part thereof smoke upon the altar. Leviticus 2:2. Amrei Ravim Barav Rav Ada Ravi Amri Tamidecha Amar Rav Amram Tanya Eni El Dvorim Shidach Nikol V'Layla Going Evorim Upidorim Shimalan Maktirim Ivo Hashemesh Umisaklin V'Hoilchin Kol Elekulo. Ravin Barvada said to Rava, your students say that Rav Amram said that it is taught in a Braita, I have derived only with regard to items whose usual manner is to be sacrificed at night, for example, the limbs of the burnt offering and the fats, the pedarim of the burnt offering, and the priests may bring them up and burn them after sunset, and they are consumed throughout the entire night. This is derived from the verse, this is the law of the burnt offering. It is that which goes up on its firewood upon the altar all night until the morning. Leviticus 6:2. Tivolim. Shidal kon likol bayoim. Kohen HaKohen mitzad avoyin ha'gzeres minchas kohanim. U'minchas kohen l'shuach. U'minchas nisochim. Shemal maktim v'vay Hashemesh. The Bride continues with regard to items whose usual manner is to be sacrificed during the day. For example, the handful of the meal offering, the frankincense, the incense, the meal offering of the priests, the meal offering of the anointed priests, and meaning the high priest, and the meal offering that accompanies the libations. From where is it derived that the priest may bring them up and burn them after sunset? Talmud Lomar, Zois Toiras Oilo. The Gemara interjects. Why would they be allowed to be burned after sunset? But didn't you say that these are items whose usual manner is to be sacrificed during the day? The Gemara clarifies rather the question of the Braita is as follows. From where is it derived that these items may be brought up and burned concurrent with the setting of the sun, in which case they are consumed throughout the entire night and not during the day? The verse states, this is the law of the burnt offering, Leviticus 6:2, which included everything that is sacrificed on the altar. V'ha'im bo hashemesh lo mishkachas la shitatzi sa'o berubo lo kashye kan klot kan ehatir. Ravin Baravada challenges, but if the handful is brought up and burned concurrent with the setting of the sun, you do not find that the majority of it is consumed by the fire before sunset. How does this Braita accord with Rabbi Yochanan's statement that the majority of the handful must be consumed by fire in order to render permitted the consumption of the remainder by the priest? The Gemara answers, this is not difficult here, where the Braita does not require the consumption by fire of the majority of the handful, is referring only to that which is required in order for the altar to receive the handful, so that it is considered the food of the altar and may continue to burn all night long. There, the Rav Yochanan states that in order to render permitted the consumption of the remainder by the priest, the majority of the handful must be consumed by the fire. Rabbi Lazar Masni Lam V'Hashemesh U'Moikim La V'Poikim V'Chein Chiasa Avdim Yom Rav Yanai V'Poikim. The Gemara knows Rabbi Lazar teaches the Braita the way it was initially presented, as asking how it is known that items that are usually sacrificed during the day may be burned after sunset, and he interprets the Braita as referring to parts of the offering that were dislodged from the fire after sunset, which may be returned to the fire throughout the night. And similarly, when Rav Dini came from Eretz Yisrael to Babylonia, he said that Rav Yanai said that the Braita is referring to parts that were dislodged from the fire after sunset. Umi amar Rav Yanai hachi. Umi amar Rav Yanai hachi. Umi amar Rav Yanai hachi. Hamar Rav Yanai ketoires. שבא גם במזבח אפילו כאן קרוטין שבו אין מכניסין אויסון יתני רב חינינו בר מניומי ודבי רב אליעזר בן יעקב אשר תאכל האש אס האוילה על מזבח יקחו לאוילה עתו מחזיר ואין עתו מחזיר יקחו לכתוירס זינים מכאן כתוירס. The Gemara asks, and did Rabbi Yanai in fact say this? But doesn't Rabbi Yanai say, in the case of incense that was dislodged from on top of the altar, the priests may not return even small lumps of it to the fire? And similarly, Rav Chanina bar Yumi from the school of Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov taught in Braita, the verse states, that which the fire will consume of the burnt offering on the altar, Leviticus 6:3. This teaches that if parts of a burnt offering that were partially consumed were dislodged from the external altar, you shall return them. But if you do not return incense that was partially consumed and was dislodged from the internal altar, the Gemara answers, remove from the bride here the word incense, so that it is not included in the list of items that may be burned throughout the night. Amar Ravasi ki pashit Rabbeloza b'Menachot boi hachi boi Rabbeloza koymet shesidoi v'sidiron aves marach ma'u derech Torah b'kach oyenet derech Torah b'kach teiku. Ravasi said, when Rabbi Elazar would explain the halachot of the meal offerings, he would raise this dilemma. Rabbi Elazar raises a dilemma. With regard to a handful that a priest arranged on the altar, and he arranged the arrangement of wood on the altar, on top of it, what is the halacha? Is this considered a proper manner of burning, or is this not considered a proper manner of burning since the handful is not arranged on top of the wood? The Gemara comments, no answer was found, and the dilemma shall stand unresolved. Teku, this would be the 235th Teku, pretty much, yeah. 235, yeah. I've been keeping count of them. Boi Chizkiah Yivarin Shesidron V'Sidor Aleihen Es HaMarocho Mahu על העצים המחמון דווקא לעצים ועדים מגב ונכסיב כוח רינו אשר תריך על האש עשה אוילן מזבח יבויח יביא ליבויח יבד תיקו. Another teko, 236, 2 for the price of 1. Nice. And then this might be a third one, who knows. Chizkiah raises a dilemma with regard to the limbs of the burnt offering that a priest arranged on the altar and arranged the arrangement of wood on the altar on top of them. What's the halacha? Do we say that the merciful one states that, and Aaron's sons, the priests, shall lay the pieces and the head and the fat in order upon the wood that is on the fire upon the altar, Leviticus 1:8, teaching that they must be placed specifically on the wood, or perhaps, since it is written in another verse, that which the fire will consume of the burnt offering on the altar, Leviticus 6:3, indicating that the burnt offering may be arranged directly on the altar. If the priest desires to arrange the limbs in this manner, he may do so, and if he desires to arrange them in that manner, he may also do so. The more comments, no answer is found, and the dilemma shall stand unresolved until the coming of the Messiah, son of David, maybe soon in our day, with Elijah the prophet, to answer our questions. Yitzchak Nafka raised a dilemma with regard to the limbs of an offering that the priest arranged adjacent to the arrangement of wood on the altar. What's the halacha? The Gemara explains, do not raise a dilemma according to the opinion of the one who says that the phrase upon all the wood is meant literally.